Hi everyone, it's Laura here for SugarPea Designs, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to create a fun space-themed card with the Over the Moon and the To Infinity and Beyond stamp sets. As a first step, I started working on my background, and today I decided to create a galaxy background with my Ganzai watercolors. So you see, I have my Canson XL watercolor cardstock taped down to my glass mat, and I am going to start creating my background by wetting the paper with clear water before I come in with my watercolor paints and start blocking the areas where I want my galaxies to be. And I'm not doing any fancy painting at all, I am just putting down the color in the areas where I think it will look nice. And I will use this as a visual guide for my next layers. For my background today, I chose pinks and purples, but you can use whatever colors you like best. Greens, yellows, any color you like will look great in a galaxy background. And once I had my first areas blocked in, I set them with my heat gun. And then I wet my paper once again and added a second layer of color. I did this because I wanted to intensify my pinks and purples, and I also wanted to start adding some blues in the areas between the galaxies. For those areas, I started with a lighter, brighter blue, and then I blended in a darker one to make the sky nice and dark. And at this stage, you don't really need to worry if your colors don't look nicely blended with each other or if this background doesn't look very promising, because we will come in with one last layer after we are done adding color to this one, and we will have heat set it. And then, like for all galaxy backgrounds, the magic will happen at the end. So at this point, my second layer is done. I am heat setting it with my heat gun and using a microfiber cloth in case I need to dry some excess water. And then I'm ready for my third layer, which will also be the final one. I spritzed my panel with clear water, and the reason why I am using a spray bottle rather than a paintbrush is because the paints will reactivate with water, and if I were to use a paintbrush I would just drag the colors around and I would risk muddying up my background. Once I have enough water on my panel, I can go in with my black paint and start darkening up the whole sky. I used a heavier hand in the areas between the galaxies and a bit of a lighter hand over the galaxies so that I would have some of those bright colors showing through the darkness of the sky. And as you can see, I am also coming back in with my pink, my purple and my light blue to brighten up those areas a little. And finally, I can dry my last layer with my heat gun. To create my stars, I used first the Tonic Studio Mica Mist in Antique Gold. I shaked the bottle really well and then I spritzed it a couple of times on my background. And then I added a few white stars by diluting the white paint in my Ganzai watercolor palette and adding droplets with a small paintbrush. I set my galaxy background aside to dry and I started working on my images. For today's card, I decided to combine the Over the Moon stamp set by SugarPea Designs with the planets in the To Infinity and Beyond stamp set, also by SugarPea Designs. I stamped my images with black hybrid ink on some Bristol Smooth cardstock by Strathmore because I wanted to do some coloring with my Zicklin Color Real Brush markers. In case you are not familiar with these markers, they are water-based markers that you can blend with each other or with water in order to create shading and add dimension to your project. And another fun thing you can do with these markers is you can blend them out with a shimmer pen. In this case, I am using the Spectrum Noir Clear Overlay pen, but you could use a Wink of Stella or anything similar that you might have. And I used this technique to blend out the markers on the sun and the stars because I thought this would fit perfectly with these images. For today's coloring, I'm doing some very easy blending, and I am basically just applying the colors to one side of the image, and I'm blending out the color towards the opposite side. As I said, for my sun and the stars, I am blending my colors with a clear overlay pen, so this is a shimmer pen. And for my planets, I will be using a water brush to blend out the colors. And by blending out these markers, we produce a variation in intensity in our colors that gives the feeling of dimension to the images, and this is something that is really easy to do with these water-based markers. Because I want my sun to be the focal image on my card, and because the image itself is rather large, I will be using two colors to blend my images. Whereas for the planets, I will be using one color only and blend that out directly with water, and the details in these adorable images will do the rest of the work. I will now play some music while I finish coloring up these images, and I will be back once it's time to put our cards together. Once the coloring was over, I die cut the stars and the planets with the coordinating dies to the To Infinity and Beyond stamp set by SugarPea Designs. I held the dies in place with some washi tape and I ran everything through my die cutting machine. And because the Over the Moon stamp set does not have a matching die set, I fussy cut the image with my scissors. Off camera, I did some more die cutting and I used the Card Front Element Builder die set to die cut a panel out of some black cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and then I used the largest die in the Postage stamp die set to die cut my galaxy background. I used some double-sided adhesive to adhere the galaxy background to the black panel, and then I moved on and started working on my sentiment. For that, I did some heat embossing with white embossing powder over black cardstock, and I chose the sentiment from the Over the Moon stamp set by SugarPea Designs that reads, "I love you to the moon and back." I stamped it with Versamark ink on a piece of black cardstock. I coated the stamped sentiment with white embossing powder, and then I used my heat gun to heat set the powder. I created a banner for my sentiment using one of the dies in the Stitched Flags die set by SugarPea Designs, and then I started assembling my card. I wanted the image with the sun and the moon to stand out from the rest of the card, so I raised that element as well as the sentiment banner over 2 layers of foam tape. For the planets, I used 1 layer of foam tape because I still wanted them to stand out from the background, but not quite as much as my focal elements. And then I glued the stars flat to my card base so that they would merge with the background. So you can see that you can also play with dimension in order to give emphasis to certain elements on your cards or push some others towards the background. I mounted my card front on a top-folding A2 card base, and I decided to quickly decorate the inside of the card as well by stamping the stars in the Over the Moon stamp set with Distress Oxides in mustard seeds. And here you can see the final result. I think this card turned out really cute with all these adorable images, and I love the shimmer on the background. And that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope I inspired you to create with the SugarPea designs Over the Moon and To Infinity and Beyond stamp sets. Don't forget to subscribe to the SugarPea Designs channel for more inspiration. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and have a great day.